do you remember seeing Ready Player One for the first time? Who would like to take that question first?
Yeah, I remember seeing it. I just remember it just being super immersive, and especially at the time, it felt like, the CGI at the time was really good and advanced. Obviously now, like, we see that kind of CGI all the time. We're kind of like spoiled with it, but at that time it was like, oh wow. And I thought it was, now that I was like thinking about the movie, like preparing for this interview 7 years ago, that kind of like virtual reality world seemed super far off in the future. But now it doesn't really.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny to think about.
Yeah. How about you, Trevor?
Yeah, I would say the same thing. It's just really unique how they set it up and how just ahead of its time it was, and how now it just feels very, very real, and feels like we're basically there right now. And yeah, it was just very ahead of its time, and a special movie for us.
Yeah, the in rewatching the movie and doing research and stuff, I saw a lot of articles where people were talking about like the Apple One glasses,
Yeah,
all that stuff, and how all of that stuff seems in comparison to what happens in the movie. It's like, yeah, the tech's not quite there yet. We've got a ways to go,
right.
but
Moving pretty quick though, even like when I remember a few years ago we got to do something with Google when they first came out with their first headset. Google was doing something with Facebook or whatever, and we got to do some sort of like live show or whatever, and we got to do like this live performance in front of these like VR people, these I don't know, avatars, I guess, and they're all very, very like 2D, very kind of rough looking, and then just a few years later you look at that same sort of app and they look way better already, and they're going to get much, much, much better. So it's moving quick.
Talking about the virtual show we did during COVID?
Yeah,
Remember, like,
where
people
everyone's
like
kind of like
flying
walking around. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
But yeah, you could do those like basically the chat rooms, but the virtual chat rooms, and we're like DJing, but it's just our like memojis basically. And our hands are just like floating.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that kind of stuff has been around, like gaming, open world gaming, and being able to choose an avatar and all that kind of stuff. But the sort of promise of the future of that technology being able to like exist almost completely inside of this virtual world, seems like we're still a few steps off from that, but that is the way it's heading. And like what Mark Zuckerberg has said before about wanting the metaverse to be like a place where there's something a little bit dystopian about saying like, we don't want anybody to exist in the real world anymore at all. But
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like, what there's an enormous amount of pop culture references being thrown at you like every second. I saw a list that was trying to like spot all the pop culture references they could see, all the like Easter eggs that had been thrown in, and this list was like 185 things long, and they're like, that's just what we caught the first time like looking through. So did that stuff connect with you guys at all?
Yeah, I thought that was like cool about it. It was like they had like the DeLorean car at one point. They had like the Iron Giant, which was like that was like a movie that I watched when I was like a kid, and then they had like the Halo like Chief. I don't even play Halo, but like the Master Chief character. So it's kind of like a combination, and it's like this community where people that play all kinds of different games and different genres are like coming together, and at the plot of the movie of like for the common good of let's keep this community the organic way that it should be versus kind of like run by a corporation that's just going to run it for profit, which was like a cool thing. And I think as far as it sparking back to like cheat codes and our group, I always remember this conversation that me and Trevor had when we first started, because Trevor used to be like a singer-songwriter project called Plug in Stereo, and we used to be roommates. And I remember kind of like the moment that, and in his mind, he was like, I don't know if I'm going to do this project anymore. I'm going to like shift gears. And he was basically talking about how in like the singer-songwriter genre, like doing like synths and doing like anything outside of just like your acoustic guitar was almost like seen as like a no-go, like you're going to be like punished by the fans or just whatever that genre was at the time. So he wanted to do more electronic stuff. And I was like, oh, I'm trying to do electronic stuff. So part of our spark, like for doing cheat codes, was if we're producers and we're DJs, then we can kind of do whatever genre we're inspired by at that moment, you know. And when you watch Ready Player One, it's like there's different kinds of gamers. Like there's the gamer that's doing like the driving video game. There's the gamer that's doing the first person shooter with the Halo. So, but they're all coming together in like this community. So I don't know. Thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we always kind of looked at our career when we first started as like sort of like a video game, as far as like that's the, the name cheat codes, the idea of like making things easy on us and sort of skipping to the good parts and having fun with what we're doing, which is like the whole point of a video game, right? Is to kind of like enjoy the whole process, and even during the hard parts, you're still having fun while you're doing it, right? So like I think a lot of people, come into the music business or any like new thing that they want to get good at, and like they almost expect things to be hard, and they look at it with like, well, I have to grind and I have to do this thing and it's going to be really tough for me and blah blah blah. And it's like, well, you can kind of switch your perspective and look at it from a more of a positive, enjoy the ride, sort of perspective, and make things easy on yourself, and try to skip the parts that you do think might be a little hard, and just kind of go for directly the end goal.
Right, because it's a weird perspective shift where like when you're building a business or doing anything that's like hard, you're like, oh, this challenge and this sucks, but then people go home and play video games for 3 hours and literally you're just like solving problems essentially and getting a dopamine hit for like solving a problem in a game. So it's like you can kind of shift your perspective when it comes to building a business or being doing anything in life that is challenging, and learn to love the challenge, whether it's like you're in the gym or whatever, and you're like, oh, I'm feeling the pump, or like you're tracking, like, oh, I can hit my new PR or whatever. And I think that's something that helped us like in the beginning, where you can kind of like celebrate every small little goal or step that you take, and it makes you very like motivated, and you can build the momentum from that, which is kind of like how they set up video games to make you addicted. It's like you have like the Pokemon, and then he's like getting levels, and you're like, oh, I gotta play for like 30 more minutes because like my Pokemon's about to evolve, or like I'm about to get this new gun or whatever, like becomes unlocked. So you can gamify your life,
Yeah.
and makes it fun.
And I guess it is the real world comparison is pretty clear. It's like in your career, you have goals, you have things that you're trying to achieve, whether it's, what's my next project going to be, where, what level of financial success do we want, whatever. And getting to those places, it's the same kind of thing where you can think of it as like a game, what's the route we're going to take? Who are we going to work with? What influences are we going to pull in? And all of that stuff is happening in this movie. But like what you were saying before about like playing with the genre, thinking about different kinds of music you want to make, what influences you pull in. And when we're talking about like avatars in the movie, having people like saying, I want to be Freddy Krueger or Chucky or whatever. And it's something totally random and wild that doesn't, there's no context for it, but it's just like, that's what I like. And I'm bringing that to what I'm doing right now. So yeah, I thought that was kind of cool that it's like showing all these people pushing towards a common goal, but coming at it from different ways and bringing their own influences and their own style into things.
Yeah, and it's kind of like that with music too. I mean, at the end of the day, like music is entertainment, and people kind of they have to go into it with like, not that you're like being fake, but it's like, this is my on stage like persona, or this is like my online persona, and what's like the vibe that you're trying to create. I definitely think like starting off too, like being able to create like this new sound, and we're experimenting with different electronic sounds. It's like, how can we create this world where we can connect with people that are listening to that type of music, and yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think like sort of in the movie, having like a team of people that are working towards a common goal, and people can you kind of fill in each other's gaps and get there quicker.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say the one thing that just stuck out to me, and I don't know if this is something you can like bring up, but in the movie they have like the first challenge, and it's like a racing game, and they all kind of just, and a lot of them are like crashing or not figuring out how to get like the key, and then the guy realizes he has to drive backwards to get the key, and that's how he's like the only one that was kind of willing to do that. And I think a lot of times you have to be willing to go against the grain when you're doing anything creative, or even like in business that's like tech or like a new product, and you have to be willing to take that risk. if you want the big reward versus if you kind of just do the same path that everyone is doing, you might find success, but it's not necessarily going to be something that's going to change the world, you know, or like, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's sort of a funny, ironic comparison, the ending with the reading the contract in order to sort of get
Hmm.
that unlock. You know, it's like very,
Hmm.
very connected to music as far as, you know, if you don't read the contract, you might get screwed. So read up, you know.
Yeah, and all of that stuff. I mean, the first challenge, thinking about it like not only approaching things in a different way to what other people might do so that you can find the route that's going to make you successful in a way that other people haven't been able to be, but also like zooming out a little bit, taking, you know, the way he finds that clue is like he's doing critical thinking, he's researching, he's like going back through all of the footage of, I can't remember what the creator of the Oasis is
right.
called, but like examining his life, understanding the kind of context of what it is that you're doing to try to approach things from a different way. That was all really cool. And that thing about signing the contract, you know, there's a very clear to me, like Willy Wonka vibe
Yeah, that's
into that.
Yeah.
exactly. It's like
Uh,
modern day Willy Wonka for sure.
yeah. Yeah. Um,
But is the creator put those Easter eggs like on purpose because he was trying to weed out like not the real fans. Like, you get what I'm
mhm.
saying? Like they had to do that. What was it, like the Pong video game or the like the old school like 8-bit?
8-bit looking thing.
Yeah, and they had to find the Easter egg at the end. So it's like he did that on purpose because he didn't want like some non like fan who was actually passionate about the world to take it over. Which is kind of, I think it's kind of similar to Willy Wonka in a way. Like he didn't want just like he wanted some like kid who actually just like loved the chocolate like for the sake of it versus you know just, oh, I'm just gonna make $1 million
Yeah,
on
some greedy kid
chocolate.
or whatever.
Right, right. And it's the same kind of test in Willy Wonka where there's like the guy who says, you know, if you steal candy for me and I can get a formula, I'll give you this much money or whatever.
Right.
And Charlie gets caught stealing something and then like apologizes and goes back and he's like, that's all I needed to know. You're like, you're a good person. You've got a good heart. It's the same thing when he's signing the contract. It's like, it's a test to say, handing over this world to somebody who might not have the best intentions or be selfish or not want it to be something that's for like this broader global community, is not the right way forward. And just making sure that it's like at this last step, you've completed all these challenges, you're able to kind of um, uh, solve the puzzle. But on
Right.
top of that, your character is important too.
Yeah, I think it's really relevant today too. Like it's 7 years ago or 8 years ago, whenever the movie came out. But now we're in the, like the AI world, and there, especially in the music industry, there's kind of like this question of like what's going to happen in the next like 4 or 5 years with AI creation of music. And I saw like a friend of ours like posted, it was like Warner Brothers signs AI artist $3 million contract, and it's like some company like designed like the visual of the person. It's like some female like R&B artist, but then they made all the music with like Suno or something. So it's like, what is that the direction we're gonna go with like entertainment, where just there's like a big corporation that kind of just owns different IP, and then you can just go and virtual reality and just hang out with those characters or hang out with Justin Bieber, and like you just click a button and regenerate like a new album every week, you know, because they own his IP. I don't know.
It's weird to me. Like the thing I always think is, well, right now, clearly, the stuff that is the art that is being produced by AI is inferior to what's being made by real people. But the technology improves year on year, sometimes day by day, and there may get to be a point where you can't tell the difference between those two things. But I think at the problem that will always exist is I think people want to know there's a real human being behind there somewhere. I think they want to have that kind of connection to know that, part of the thing that people love about social media and being able to connect to the artists they love is that it is that person. It is, they feel like they have this direct line to the person they admire. And if that can't exist and it's just like this avatar who's creating all of these things with an algorithm, it does just remove, it's kind of this soulless emptiness, at least to me.
For sure.
Yeah. I think that we're like really lucky because we grew up like slightly pre-internet, so
Mhm.
we have like a little bit more grounding. But you know, they have those like news stories where the kid's falling in love with ChatGPT and he ends up like deleting himself. And you know, me and Trevor were doing a session the other day, and just I wasn't really paying attention, but I was using ChatGPT just like come up with like ideas. And throughout the day, I didn't even realize, but I started talking to it like it was like my friend. Like I was like, "Hey man, how's it going?" Like, and you're like, "Oh crap! Like, what am I doing? Like, this is I'm such an idiot. Like, why am I talking to this freaking language model like he's my friend? Like I would talk to Trevor." So I think there are like younger people, especially that are getting into it, and they don't really know the difference. You know, if you're not really interacting with real humans on a regular basis, like you're 12 years old and you just hang out with your parents a few hours a day and that's it, then it isn't really that different. For us, we're like, this is just, it's not even worth the squeeze. You know, like you see like a fake AI artist and it's just makes you want to throw up. But
Yeah, yeah. I know tons of people who, anytime they use any AI platform to do any kind of search for anything, they say please and thank you. It's like,
yeah,
Oh
I think
yeah.
that's
yeah,
important. You know,
yeah,
you don't want the Terminators to take you out.
exactly. It's like, I just want it on record that I have been polite
Yeah.
to you and I really
Always been really
appreciate
nice.
everything you've ever done. Yeah.
So
um,
true.
but that thing in the movie about people living in this virtual world to escape the reality that has become so intolerable, and everybody is living in poverty and the air is polluted and all this stuff. And again, it's like little too close to home. Like it feels
Yeah,
like,
I don't think they got everything right as far as I think from their perspective, they were thinking like, oh, like the whole country is gonna be like overpopulated, and we're gonna be like, you know, they have that scene where they're in like a trailer park, but they're all kind of like stacked on top of each other. They're
mhm.
boxes, like trailers on boxes. Obviously, we have like a fertility crisis. I don't think we're gonna be like, oh, in 10 years, there's like a billion people living in America. But I do think it is kind of interesting, and not to put like Trevor's info out there or anything, but he lives in the woods and he has like Starlink and he gets high speed internet and in like an area that he probably shouldn't or like wouldn't like a couple of years ago. So now we're almost in like a point of time where people don't have to live in cities if they don't want to, and they can still be just as connected. And especially if some of these cities, it seems like the cost of living or the cost of housing is so high, like maybe we'll see kind of this explosion where people are living in Columbus, Ohio, but then they plug into, you know, they're still interacting in like a bar in New York, you know, with their friends, and it doesn't really feel that different.
Yeah. And in some ways, the internet, one of the most positive effects of it existing has been people connecting with each other. Like my family, a lot of my family live in the UK. I live in New York. And thinking about how much more difficult it would be for us to communicate with each other if it was just like, phone calls occasionally, or not being able to video chat and text each other and whatever. So in its current state, even without any like immersive virtual reality stuff, the internet does connect people in a way that is very unique to it. But yeah, just being able to kind of give people a more immersive version of that, I can imagine will be very appealing to everybody. And it's coming. It's like it isn't science fiction. It's like it's science future. It's
And even now, I think there's already people like that are already starting to kind of live in that world, 24/7. Maybe not that many
Mhm.
people, but there's some for sure. Like like I said, when me and Matt first kind of had those headsets, and we can kind of go in over the years. I've kind of put them on and just to see what's going on, different games and different apps or whatever. And you go in there, and some people are like living full on lives in there. There's like comedy clubs, there's movie theaters, there's like everything. Like people are like performing in these virtual worlds, and you walk in, you're like, there's no way this is like happening. But people are there and just chatting and like holding a fake drink. It's like, what is this? But it's already happening. It's just, maybe not 4K yet, not like
Mhm.
indistinguishable or 3D or whatever. It's a
Right.
little bit more cartoony. But it's definitely getting better, and like and it's happening really fast. So, and people are already doing it. So,
Yeah, to mention the New York bar, this was like in 2021, so I don't know how much better it got, but I was in one of those like VR chat rooms and we're all like floating memojis and you can like enter into like a New York bar where you can see like the Brooklyn Bridge and it's like on a rooftop and it's like everyone's fake drinking or whatever. And I'm just like, this is bizarre. You know, you can look any direction and then I see these guys, these floating meme guys, like walk past me, and it's like the closer they get, the more you can hear their voice like talking. So I'm like eavesdropping on these people's conversation, which is so weird. And they're like, I don't know, man. I'm just trying to find some girls in here. I was like, what? I'm like, what is happening? What is this place? So I don't know. Maybe there's a bunch of dudes that meet women in like a fake New York bar on these, but it didn't work for me. But
Yeah. And like, as Ready Player One can show us, sometimes you think you're meeting a woman and you absolutely are not. So, that's another wrinkle to it.
right.
yeah, I was also gonna say like with especially since COVID, like a lot of the songs when we do collaborations, like we're not meeting up in the studio. Like it's
Mm,
all just sending files back and forth, and there's so much new technology to where you can fix stuff. I mean, we work with a lot of Europeans as well, which is
mm.
it makes it a very efficient form because we can literally send them a version and then they're working on it while we're sleeping, and then we wake up to a new version. So it's pretty interesting. But I also see like the duality where people are so online that the people that are really killing it in IRL in real life seem to have a bigger impact,
Mm.
if that
Yeah.
makes sense. Whether it's the people that are doing the IRL streams and real life streams, or that are just continuing to, have a really good live show that impacts people. It seems like they're almost doing better than ever. You know what I mean? Like people are still buying their tickets. They're still going to see them. So
Yeah. And, it's a balance. There are some things that can't be replicated online, and there are some things that can be better and more convenient online than they are in real life. But like during the pandemic, I used to go to like virtual clubs on Zoom when nobody could go outside. So that's just like, that is not the same thing in any way. And definitely that's an experience that you need to have in real life. But
For sure.
yeah, things like that where you have to, I think the pandemic showed people this extreme situation, how you have to improvise and you have to try to create some kind of reasonable facsimile of your real life interactions because there's no other way to do it. And then coming out the other side of that and saying like, oh, I guess, it is possible for us to work with people who are in other countries and we don't have to actually be in the same studio in the same space all the time. And you may or may not want to work like that in the long term, and that might not be your preference always, but that knowing that that's an option and that it works well and that you're actually able to produce good stuff doing it that way, it's like technology can open up options to all of us.
exactly,
Exactly.
exactly.
100%.
Yeah. So anything else about the story that like resonated with you, or any particular characters that stood out?
I think just like also just the story of wanting to do it as a team and like you said, like meeting, having this like community. I think in like the EDM world that was like really strong. So when we started going to these festivals and playing the festivals, you have someone coming up to you with all these bracelets and then they do like, oh, PLUR, man, and you're like it's almost like a bunch of misfits coming together and just having the time of their life and not judging each other but like connecting in a weird way. And like people dress up a lot of times for these kind of raves, whether it's EDC or Burning Man or whatever. So it is kind of like you're trying to not become a character, but you're trying to enter into a new world and into a different world and create this experience. And we've been doing that a lot with our live show a lot as well too, where it's like updating different visuals and making them almost like video game style, like you're entering into like a VR when you see us live. So I think all that is like important when people come out to see like a live experience. Like they want the full 360 the lights, the visuals, the sound.
That kind of immersive
Exactly. Yeah.
thing when you're that to me is the best thing about going to clubs and festivals and whatever is it's like there's a lot of shit going on in the world right now. It is not generally the vibes in the world are not good if you're, you know, looking at the news. When you go to clubs and you're with people who you're all into the same kind of music, you're all there for the same reason, and it's this you know, it isn't universal. People get into fights and stuff. It's not always complete peace and love, but overall, generally, I think it's this feeling of community and lack of judgment, and it's like a space where people, this like catharsis can happen. People can really like get rid of all of the shit in the world that is weighing them down, at least for a little bit, and that's like my favorite part about going out is feeling.
We just played this show in Amsterdam, and we hadn't played Europe in a while, so it was kind of like we didn't really know what the crowd was going to be like. But we hung out with the fans after the show, and some of them were saying, "Oh, we drove 2 hours to come see you," and it was like multiple people were saying that. So it's cool to see when, you know, you're just hanging out, and you know, there's like 50 people hanging out after the show, and like the only thing connecting them is like our music, and you can like bring people like that together who are willing to make that drive and make that trip, and they form these memories with strangers, but then by the end of the night they feel like they're friends. You know, so
Yeah.
I think that's, you know, with the video game culture, I think there's a little bit of that too, where it's like I have no idea who this person is, but then you're playing Call of Duty with them, and by the end you're like, oh, this is like my homie I've never met.
Yeah.
100%. I'm sure you guys have maybe seen those videos on TikTok or whatever, but there's people like meeting my, you know, video game best friend after 10 years of playing with them for the first time. It's like crazy. That happens like all the time nowadays. It's pretty wild.
Yeah. And again, it's like, you know, H in Ready Player One, and it's the same in the book where it's like, you know, the avatar is like a big beefy man, and then in real life it's a black woman, and it's like, you know, the fact that everyone's just kind of like, oh, like fine,
Fair enough.
still, yeah, it's like you're still the same person who I've been chatting to. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, 100%.
I think that note of peace and love and everybody getting along is a great place to stop. This has been really fun. I really liked this movie when it came out, but I only saw it on a plane. So moving from like a, you know, 6-inch screen up to at least my TV was an upgrade and made me appreciate it even more. So
nice. There you go. Love that, man.
Appreciate it, man.
But thanks so much, guys, for making time for me. This has been really fun.
Of course. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Hey, do you want more conversations with incredible people talking about the movies and music they love? Then subscribe to the Spark Parade YouTube channel.